Making a hash of it. Need a clip.
Looks bonkers. We're going to be installing our Truma heater around here, and the first thing we need to do for that is cut a hole for its exhaust, which I think we're going to put about here in the side of our wall. We're going through with a pilot hole first, A, because it makes it easier to get the big hole saws through, and B, just to double check that placement before we go drilling a massive hole in the side. Getting the hole saws through the metal is always a bit of a job, but it works out fine in the end. Top tip for getting to Schwarf in awkward to reach places: if you find something metal, that's the right kind of metal like steel, even if it's not magnetic, you can give it a quick magnetize by running a magnet along its length, and then it becomes magnetized and you can stick it in all the hard to reach places and it'll grab the Schwarf for you.
We were never planning on installing this Truma heater, which is why we've not installed the exhaust up until this point. Normally you'd install it before you put the insulation on, and definitely before you put your walls on. But because we didn't do that, we're going to have to widen the hole on the inside through this wall and the insulation behind, because we need to be able to get this hose clip on and right up to the cowl, which obviously at the moment doesn't fit through. So we need space to get that through, and space to be able to get a ratchet or something in to tighten this up as well.
We've temporarily screwed on a piece of scrap wood here because our big hole saw is just too big to go on without a pilot hole, and obviously the hole we had in the wall was way too big for that, so this is just to help it cut nice and smoothly.
Now we're finished cutting our hole and treating the raw metal edge with some hammerite, we can poke the exhaust hose through and attach it to the wall cowl. What we need to do now is compress this end down, and then you can see that we've got these rings are a lot tighter than the rings up this end, and that means when we put this clamp on the end and tighten it up, it gives it a much more solid thing to clamp onto.
The Truma exhaust is actually dual purpose, so it's the exhaust for all of its waste gases, but it also has the air intake for all of its combustion air. So that's why you'll see there's an inner silver tube as well as a larger black outer tube. The exhaust cowl has some holes on it, so all we need to do is pop a few screws through these to get it to fit nice and flush with the van wall. And there's a little plastic outer casing to finish everything off. This is pretty much going to be the final resting place for our Truma heater. We've decided to put it on top of our water tank just to preserve as much footprint in the garage as possible for all of our stuff. If you imagine this cardboard is going to be plywood though, because we need something strong to sit it on, and then we're going to build a frame out of battens to hold it up. This framework is actually also going to secure our water tank into place, so it needs to be super strong, which is why we're using pocket holes to fit the pieces together. So you can see we've got our box built now for the water tank and our Truma. The next thing to do is to cut a piece of plywood to set on top. We chose some nice thick plywood because we didn't want to take any chances with the Truma, and as you can see we're securing it down in plenty of places. With the Truma in its final resting place, we can now attach the other end of that exhaust pipe to it. Just like before, that inner silver tube goes on first, and we compress that down and pop on the little clamp. And then once that's snugly in place, we slide on that black over tube and tighten that up with a Jubilee clip. And here it is. There are some guidelines on how this exhaust needs to be run, So if you're installing it yourself, make sure you read the manual. And now we can move on to plumbing it in. You can see here that we've already connected up our gas pipe to the Truma on the left. If you want to see our gas install video, it will be linked up on the right. This piece with the yellow lever you can see is the pressure relief valve for the Truma. It does work automatically whenever the Truma needs to let off some pressure, but you can also manually lift that lever up to drain the system. The little black piece is a non-return valve, and that just stops any of that potential overflow from the pressure relief flowing back towards the rest of our system. And this T is where we will be connecting the Truma to the rest of our plumbing system. Onto the hot water side now, and the only difference here is that the pipes need a little hard plastic insert, and that's just to stop them deforming if they get warm and potentially causing some leaks.
The Truma has two overpressure relief valves, one here on the hot water and one here on the incoming cold supply line. And instead of drilling two separate holes, we're going to join those into one and then have one hole going out the bottom about down there.
Ready?
Yeah. Yes, emptying the system with our non-return valve, stopping it going that way. Checking for leaks down there. It does weird things.
Yeah.
We've created a vacuum. We've just finished draining the Truma using the drain valve here. It turns out our approach of using a Y connection didn't work very well because it got a vacuum, but the reason we've had to drain that is to try and fix this connector here, which appears to be our only leak, at least on the low temperature side. Cold side to the rest of us. Jesus, oh Christ alive, that's a massive leak, monster leak, massive. So we need to look at why that one's leaking, fix the mess that is joining those two up, don't do that, and then hopefully we can try the hot side back to about there. So just like there. Yeah,
that looks good to me from this angle. Cool.
Yeah. Just literally taken off that much. Right.
Alright, take two! Alright, ready?
I'm scared, but yes. Okay, right, you turn it off a sec.
Now, because our previous plan with the Truma of joining up the two drain valves with a Y didn't work, we're going to cut another hole for the Truma so that this drain valve can go out through the floor as well.
That off, how quickly it drains. Yeah, piece of cake.
Yeah, cool. We're almost done with the Truma install now. The only things left to do are to run the ducting for the heating, which will come out of these things here, and then test it works. We have 4 outlets for hot air on the Truma, and we're running one of these through the kitchen towards the living area, one of them towards the steps, one into our drying cupboard, and then the fourth one we're actually going to split and run it part way towards the bed and part way into the bathroom. The ducting cuts pretty easily with a Stanley blade, however do be careful because some of the edges when you cut them can be really sharp, so just as a heads up. The Truma has special caps to go on the end of its ducting, and they consist of 2 pieces, a fronting piece with a vent that you can open and close, and we've opted for the black versions of those, and a grey back nut that just screws up and holds everything nice and securely.
The thermostat for the Truma Combi has this mounting plate, so we're going to mount that about here somewhere, and then the thermostat clips onto that, and then what we'll do is we'll run all the cables for that down through the gap in our partition wall and out to the heater. Now I've suitably butchered this hole with the multi-tool, we're going to install this. So you just pull off the little control knob. It's got two little latching things which go onto here. So you do that. So, and then we're going to put a little screw which they provide through there. And that goes into that one behind, which should hold it snugly to the wall. The first time you go into the Truma, you will need to go into the settings and reset it so that it connects up to the actual Truma properly. And now we're going to try hot air. So we'll set that to, let's say 25. And we'll put our water on boost for good measure. And for us, we're only ever going to be on gas. We're never going to be using any form of electric because we don't have hookup. And then we'll leave the fan speed as it is. So hopefully it'll do something. So hopefully you can see here that this water one is flashing, which means that's still heating up. That's the one for the air, so I assume once the water's heated up for us, that will start flashing as it heats the air up. We're on gas only mode with low fan speed, and it is 10:57, and we've got it set to 25 degrees to test it. Any further comments, queries, questions?
Is it coffee time?
Yes. Yeah, the hot water's apparently heated up, so we'll just take a little while to come through.
And we've got a whole system worth of cold before it gets to the hot.
You can see that's that's
nice and
hot.
warm. Okay.
Okay, cool. No, hot.
Way.
Is it hot yet?
Oh. Oh yeah. Nice and toasty warm. Which means hot water and heating done.